Okie dokie. So this video is going to be about um, the game uh, that I made for game design class on this last um, session of, a one stone or term, I guess you could call it. So for game design or for coding in general at One Stone, we spent uh, the time doing. I spent it doing two separate coding classes. A lot of people had two separate coding classes, and um, those coding classes were applied math and coding as well as game design. The separate game or separate um, classes, you can see that they're under the same classroom in Google Classroom, but as different topics. So they took place during different times and they had different assignments. And this time I'm going to be going over everything I did in game design in this particular video. Um, there'll be another video talking about what I was doing in applied math and coding as well. So for everything in game design, it was entirely optional what sort of language you used. What was recommended was that we use Python. So we decided to go forward and use Python for a lot of the things that we wanted to do. So I'm going to be mostly talking about the final product, which is pretty much what I have now, which is I have everything except for one of these things that I'm going to be doing and then submitting finally what I'm doing. You can see it's technically late, but it doesn't really matter in this case, I guess. So in terms of, I guess we'll go to the topics of game design specifically. At the beginning, we had this first task, which was just to create a canvas. So, okay, in Python, the coding language, you have your code, but your code when you have the code output something, it goes directly to the shell here. So an example of that would be like this. If I said like print hello world, you got a hello world, that's very important in coding. So you can see here that it just went straight to the shell versus when I ran this code, it opened a separate window. So this window is part of tkinter, which is or tkinter, however you want to say it, which is essentially like a front end graphical interface type thing that builds off of Python. So we learned how to use that, and essentially everything you see in this box seems to be 300 by 300. That's the canvas. And then the objects within that are rectangles, ovals, polygons. And then I moved the object later here. So that's everything that you see here. So for the graphical hello world, essentially what we did is this, but instead of going to the shell, he wanted it in a graphical interface. And I have it. Yeah, you can see it. I did create text. So that was the first thing that I did in the class. Then there was draw an object, which you can see I did over here. But it was something here. I'm pretty sure it was this, either one of those circles or this, probably this big blue background square. But you can see that if I run this again quickly, there are three objects. There's the mountain, the blue sky background, and then the sun that is setting. So sun and mountain is the name of it. And so all those three objects I created as part of this project. So the first thing was draw an object, then animate an object, which I did next. Perhaps a bagel. We like to have fun. User moves an object. So I'll just show you kind of where I am now with Frogger. I actually might be able to find a file of me working on it. This might be an older file right here. I think this is an earlier version of the game. Yep. So here there are the obstacles of the asteroids, as well as the final goal of the portal. in which the goal is just to go forward and to just get every time you go, or every time you make it through, you increase your score by one section, and it never actually gets harder or tracks your score, or you know, it's pretty much just monotony. And it's actually a lot of fun to play. I think the new version is more interesting, but this version is definitely interesting to play as well. So I'll get to 15 because 15 seems like a good number. Actually, it's irrelevant. So there you go. You can see when you die, your score resets. And so that was cool. That was an interesting, fun experience. But I later moved on to this is essentially my final product. The furthest I am along currently. And so you can see that this is a lot of code. This is 378 lines of code, a lot of which is commented out. So I'm just going to run this. You can see here that I added some sections on the side so that would fill the whole screen, which was something I'm experimenting with. I might end up changing my mind. But you'll also notice that now it starts with a single line of asteroids. And it also displays a high score and a press O to exit. So essentially what we have here are, as soon as you get to a certain score, another line of asteroids is added. You can see that the first one is aligned, but as they continue, they don't quite get aligned, and so they becomes more random. They're going at different paces. Each row is. So as soon as we it died. You can see here it slowly resets, which I actually kind of enjoy. I kind of enjoy the fact that it slowly resets after you die instead of just instantaneously resetting, because it kind of like it feels more natural. I don't know. It's not something I've seen in a game before, and I like that element of it, like something that's interesting and different. So we are hoping to get to level 10. I think it's actually 11 when it actually happens, but you can see here that a third line is added. Died. So the third line is added there. And eventually, I'm not quite there yet, but when it gets to 30, as it continues to 30, it gets harder. The asteroids get closer together. But the idea is when they get to 30, there's a fourth row added or something along those lines. Maybe I'll add a fourth row sooner before that, make the game a bit more difficult, or maybe but there's going to be a fourth row and then a fifth row, and you'll notice that in between each row there's a middle period, right? So there'll be 5 total rows with middle sections, right? And then these middle sections will start having occasional asteroids, or asteroids that aren't as frequent. Sorry, asteroids that aren't as frequent. And I think that'd be interesting. So it tracks your high score, and you can reset you can reset the score manually, or you can change the elements of it. But in total, it also plays sound, but I can't play the sound for you due to the nature of how I'm recording this visual for you. But if you look at this song, that's the song that is being played. Except for I have an idea for, I'm working on a project right now that I would replace, I'll replace the audio that there is currently. That's essentially where I am at the moment. And it's a fun game, and I spent a lot of time on it. Total of about 8 weeks working on this project overall, which for my first experience in Python, I think is pretty solid. So, yeah.